History Month. All right, so after Brady's Super Bowl win, we found ourselves discussing the inevitable GOAT conversation across sports. We all love to debate it. LeBron had a chance to weigh in. Here's what he had to say about Tom Brady's longevity. Can't wait for this.
One of the GOATs. I've been watching him my whole life. For him to win another one yesterday in the fashion that he won, it was pretty cool. It's very inspiring for a guy like myself. But two different sports, two different positions. I don't know how long I'm gonna play the game. I don't know how much more I'll be able to give to the game. But the way I feel right now, we'll see what happens. But I have no timetable on it. I have no year of. The game will let me know when it's time, and we'll figure it out then.
Well, it certainly isn't the time because he's still playing at an MVP level. Big Perk is in the building on your screens. How we doing, Kendrick Perkins? Always good to see you, sir. I will get to you in just a moment. Good to see you.
Good morning to you, Molly. Max.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Max,
Perk.
You know what it is. Oh, my goodness. All
He's
right, guys.
Scowling.
So Tom Brady's already eclipsed
a little bit.
20 years. He's focused. He's ready to take you on and take you down. That's a matter of fact. Tom Brady's already played 20 years in the NFL. LeBron's approaching it. I think he's at year 18. Max, what would LeBron have to do? We're always talking about LeBron and MJ. What does LeBron have to do to catch Tom Brady?
Yeah, before you can catch MJ, who's #1 in any sport all time, catch Tom Brady. Right. Has he caught Tom Brady already or no? Because Tom Brady doesn't have a Michael Jordan in football that he had to pass by. I thought Tom Brady passed Joe Montana years ago. Like when he got to 5, he passed Joe Montana. Even when they were tied, I thought maybe Brady's got him. And so there's no, and Montana was the greatest ever in my opinion, but not Michael Jordan. So it's a harder thing to be considered the GOAT in basketball than it is in football, simply because there was never a Michael Jordan of football. The sport doesn't lend itself to one guy dominating that way, which is why what Brady's doing is so remarkable. I think LeBron has to have a flurry of winning, like a concentrated era of winning at the very end of his career, because that's really why Brady put so much distance between himself and the rest of football. When I thought he passed Montana, I thought that was as the greatest quarterback ever. But at this point, he's clearly the greatest player ever. And that's because since I made the Cliff prediction, that was 5 years. He's been to 4 Super Bowls and won 3. He'd never done that in his entire career until that point. Never. He played 15 years until that point. He went to 6 Super Bowls and won 4. And then in the next 5 years, he went to 4 and won 3. That's what makes him in a class by himself. Now, LeBron is in a position where he might do that. LeBron is on a team that's a powerhouse, in a market that's attractive to free agents, with a very competently run organization, with another superstar who may be just in his prime now, at his very absolute best now, in Anthony Davis. Yes, LeBron could do it. He got to L.A., he won 1. If he stays in L.A. for 3 or 4 years and does what Brady just did, which he might, then all of a sudden, LeBron is sitting on 7 or 8 chips. And he did it because of this incredible flurry of championships toward the very end of his career. And Perk, let me just say this. Football, many, many quarterbacks are great still in their late 30s. The reason I predicted the cliff, meaning not a decline, but a sudden fall off, is because Favre and Peyton Manning and others were like, oh my God, at 37, 38. They've never been better. And then all of a sudden they weren't good anymore. But in the NBA, that never happens. Because of the miles you run in the NBA, you don't see 37 and 38-year-old MVPs like you do frequently in the NFL. And so LeBron is much closer to being Brady already in terms of his age and what he's doing than people realize. For him to still be the best player in the game at his age is completely, and given the miles he's run in the NBA already, the minutes he's played, is completely unprecedented. But he's going to have to win some more chips to catch Brady.
Well, first of all, let me start off by saying this. I don't want to to disrespect the GOAT of football and Tom Brady, because I believe he's the greatest football player ever. And what he did in this Super Bowl this past weekend, or this past season, going through, Drew Brees and Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers, just cemented that. But when you talk about comparing him and LeBron James, first of all, basketball and football is apples and oranges to me. Second of all, they have the code. They have the exact same code to the exact same penthouse. They both could get into the same penthouse using the same code. They are sitting at the same dinner table. And when you talk about LeBron James, a guy that had pressure, a guy that had so much on his shoulders since the age of 16, since the age of 18, when he was drafted in 2003, the expectations, the bar that was set. No knock on Tom Brady, but Tom Brady was drafted in the 6th round. It wasn't no expectations on Tom Brady. He wasn't set up to fail. LeBron James has exceeded expectations. You talk about pressure. And then, Max, when we talk about football and basketball, and I know Big Marcus Spears and Big Dan Orlowski and Ryan Clark and all the football minds may feel some type of way about this, but it's no discredit. Look, it's no discredit to winning a championship in football, because it's hard to win a championship in any sport, okay? I'm going to make that clear. But when you talk about football, they have to win a max of 4 games. 4 games. Sometimes 3 when they get a first-round bye. In basketball, you got to win 16 games. 4 games in basketball just get you through the first round. So right there is a separation. And when you talk about another thing, far as LeBron James, when he gets there, him and Brady both then got there 10 times apiece. Yes, Brady then won 7. LeBron James has won 5. So they both, it's not like they both 100%. But when they get there and they both win it, guess what? LeBron James finishes food on his plate, Max. And when I say that, meaning not only when he win it, does he win it, he wins the final MVP every single time that he's won a championship. Tom Brady has left food on his plate because he's won 7, but he's only won 5 of the MVPs, okay?
This is the thing about Brady, though, that's remarkable. I take what you say the other way. And by the way, the football guys say it's harder in football, basketball guys say it's harder in basketball, but I take it the other way. In a one-and-done tournament, the fact that Brady's got 7 rings in one-and-done tournaments in a league that promotes parity unlike any other, because there's a hard cap. The fact that, and he did it with Belichick the whole time, but then he switches teams and they do it right away. And you talked about the gauntlet of quarterbacks he had to run through. To me, that's more impressive. It means with the chips are always on the line, and you always have to come out on top. So Brady has that winner thing about him, the aura, in a different way than LeBron. LeBron had to learn that. LeBron, I don't count 07 with Cleveland. It's amazing he got them there. But in Miami, he had to learn how to do it. Brady had that winner thing where his team always seemed to win from the moment he hit the league. And that's what LeBron's really up against. 5 out of 10 versus 7 out of 10.
Max, how can you say something so crazy when you look at the effect that LeBron James have on the franchise? Before Cleveland got him, they were in the lottery every single year. And then when Cleveland drafted LeBron James, a year or 2 later, they instantly became a contender. LeBron James leaves Cleveland. They go right back into the lottery again. He goes to Miami and helped them win 2 championships. He leaves Miami. Miami never sniffed the Eastern Conference Finals again until just last year when Jimmy Butler in the bubble took over, okay? And then he leaves Cleveland again and goes to L.A., Cleveland, back to rock bottom again, where he goes to more pressure. L.A. with Magic, Kareem, all the all-time greats. I'm going there not to go and ride off into the sunset and do Space Jam 2. No, I'm going there to hang a banner. I'm going to more pressure. It's enough that I didn't have pressure on me my entire life, I'm going to add more pressure and go to the Lakers where they got banners galore all over the arena. I'm going to go there and hang one. Well, what you arguing? You just said that that Brady, it was a separation between winning. And I'm telling you it's not. It's not a separation.
What I'm saying is you're mentioning all the things. You're mentioning all the things that LeBron has done, but I can point to a finals where he didn't play well, and that cost his team. Had LeBron just stayed himself in the fourth quarter of that Dallas series, they win, but he didn't, and they lost. By the way, I know I'm splitting hairs, but we're comparing two of the greatest of all time. So hold on, Perk, hold on. So this is what I'm saying. Brady's lost 3 out of 10 Super Bowls, 3 out of 10. 2 of them were by the skin of his teeth to Eli Manning, by the skin of his teeth, and one of them also by the skin of his teeth, where he threw 500 yards. He does not have any Dallas series on his resume. And when you're splitting hairs among the very greatest of all time, you have to start looking at stuff like that.
Yeah, and you also have to start looking at stuff like LeBron James was facing one of the greatest teams of all times with Kevin Durant, Stephen Curry, and Klay Thompson. We also have to look into that. Go pull up LeBron numbers when he. And you talk about Tom Brady throwing for 500 yards in a loss in the Super Bowl. Go look at LeBron James' finals numbers when he was going against Golden State, especially that first year.
Notice I didn't bring those up.
Kevin Love and when he lost Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love.
I agree.
So that counts on the resume, too. But all I'm telling you, Max, is that to your point, you said that Tom Brady, he proven that he left
I see what you're saying.
Patriots, he went to the Bucks and he changed it and he won with a different team. I'm telling you, LeBron James has done the same thing. He's won with Cleveland, he's won with Miami, and he's won with the Lakers. The Lakers hadn't been to the playoffs in 7 or 8 years, almost a decade. He goes there towards the end of his prime and not only gets them to the playoffs, but delivers a title. It don't matter. It don't matter.
With AD, and by the way, it was in the absence. It was. All of a sudden, Golden State didn't have KD or Steph or Clay. The KD, Steph, and Clay Warriors with Draymond would have beaten LeBron and AD. But that's not really what I'm talking about. LeBron, twice in his career, entered postseason series, both times in Miami, with a team that should have won but lost, or at least a team on equal footing with the other team and lost. And the difference between football and basketball is the best player in basketball has a greater sway over the outcome of the game than in football. So when they win, they get tons of credit, but when they lose, they also get tons of blame, even more than a quarterback in the NFL. LeBron's teams that he was on in Miami, talent-wise, were right there with Dallas and right there with San Antonio, and they lost both times. So I'm not holding the Golden State stuff against them. I agree with you there. I'm looking at Miami.
Okay, well, Max, I'm just going to leave it at this. At the end of the day, like I said at the start of this segment, that LeBron James and Tom Brady both have the same code to get in the same penthouse, period. It ain't nothing else LeBron need to do to catch up with Tom Brady.
But with Jordan sitting at the head of the table, who's facing him, Brady or LeBron?
It's not. They both eating ribeyes, so they all 3 eating ribeyes, so it don't even matter, Max. All I'm telling you is that he don't need to do nothing. He don't need to do anything to catch up with Brady.
Really eat steak.
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
I like a New York
I'm just saying. Yeah, of course you do.
All right, guys. We'll leave it right there. Timeless level, as it marked the 13th time he led his team outright in points, rebounds, and assists as the oldest player on his team to appear in the game. Big Perk still here with us. Max, did LeBron prove he is the MVP last night?
No. He proved he is the best player in the game. You cannot take that away from him until it's proven in the finals by another great player. But MVP, and by the way, I hate the MVP award. It shouldn't be a regular season award. You know how I stand on that, Molly. But if we're just talking the literal definition of the regular season MVP, it's Joel Embiid, who's, by the way, got his team in first place, and he ain't playing with AD, who recently beat the Nets and the Lakers and the Celtics twice. who is averaging. Let me just throw out some stuff at you, Perk, because here is last bunch of games, okay? 42-10, 38-11, 33-14, 28-6, 37-11, 34-11, 37-5, 33. He's putting up the kind of numbers that Shaq has always said he needs to put up consistently in order to really fulfill his potential and be the dominant big guy. He's doing it now. You want to talk about, do I think Joel Embiid's better than LeBron? No. Do I think his team's going to win the finals? No. Do I think LeBron's the best player in the game? Yes. Do I like the way the MVP's set up? No. But if you're asking who so far is the regular season MVP, it is very clear, and that's Joel Embiid.
Well, Max, I'm not about to hoop and holler with you right now because I'm a fan of Joel Embiid, and I think he is having an MVP season. Those numbers that you told me that you just shot out there, those are dominant numbers. But if Molly asked the question and said, last night, did it prove that LeBron is the MVP? My answer is yes. Okay, yes. And here's why. A wise man told me it's not what you do, it's how you do it, okay? And when you look at the fashion that LeBron James is playing in, the effect that he has on the game, it's a beautiful thing to see in year 18 at the age of 36 years old. Here you go. Here you got a guy by the name of D. Wade, who played with LeBron, won championships with him in Miami, saw a great LeBron James down there, and said, this is the best LeBron James that I've ever seen. And so when I watch the game and I'm watching the Lakers play, I'm watching LeBron James go from being a small forward to a scorer when he's playing alongside Dennis Schroeder at the start of the game, to when Dennis Schroeder goes out the game, he goes back to being a point guard and a facilitator. He's passing the ball on time, on target. You watching guys like Wesley Matthews and Caldwell Pope not have to reach high or reach low. The ball is in their shooting pocket. You watching LeBron James dissect defense, read the defense better than he has ever done in his career, right? Getting to his spots, triple jabbing, jab step, going left, pulling up for his jumper. We're watching the best version. And by the way, offensively, I just told you what he's doing. Everything perfect on the offensive end, he's doing perfect. On the defensive end, guess what? At 36 years old, he's a better defender than your boy Kawhi Leonard right now because he's guarding people. He's guarding people. So when I look at it, he's not only giving us the offensive package and making others around him better while doing it. On the defensive end, we could argue and say he's the defensive player of the year. So I'm looking at it, the whole body of work, and watching what LeBron James is doing and his impact on the game. And when we thought that because of a short NBA offseason, it was going to be load management, and he's played every single damn game. Even the ones AD has missed, even the back-to-backs where we thought he was going to be resting. No, he hasn't rested. In the last 2 weeks, by the way, he's ranked top 10 in minutes. So he's landed out there on the line every single night, and he's coming up with wins. He's got back-to-back triple-doubles. So right now, although Joel Embiid, you got Big Jokic playing well, it's a lot of guys that are playing exceptional basketball. But when I look at the overall body of work and the impact on the game, not just stats, because Braun is doing that also, but the total impact, I got to give it to LeBron James, Max.
Let's talk total impact. I'm not saying LeBron's not a miraculous player. He is. And you're right. AD really challenged him. He said on this show, he challenged him to play intense defense last year. And I think AD deserves some credit for being an influence there because LeBron is playing defense more consistently than he did in Cleveland. It's more like the Miami days, but with a little more wisdom. So like, I get what you're saying. Defensive player of the year so far is Joel Embiid, actually. Like, I focused on Embiid's offense, which has been the best in the game this year so far, if you want to talk about the numbers he's put up. The defense, Embiid has been look, last year I was saying Ben Simmons was the best defender in the league until he got hurt. The best defender on the Sixers this year is Embiid. And he's doing it on the offensive end, and his team is in first place. Matter of fact, they don't know what to do with Embiid. You know who he was giving AD the business when they went head-to-head. He was abusing Anthony Davis. And, in fact, it got, LeBron took him out of the air, right? Like, when Embiid went down hard, LeBron and Gasol were like, what are we going to do with this guy? Nothing. They took him out of the air. He landed hard and wasn't the same after that. Until then, he was giving AD the business. And on the defensive end, Perk, you want to argue someone else is the defensive player of the year? You said you're not going to, like, hoot and holler about the NBA. I'm not going to hoot and holler about it either. If you ask me my honest opinion right now as to who's played the best defense, any individual player, which player has most affected the defense of their team and the offense of the other team this year so far, I'm going to tell you Embiid.
Yeah, but Max, that's crazy for you to say because you're a stats and analytics guy. And for you not to know the stats and analytics, that's beyond me right now because that's what you rely on. Who's the #1 defensive team in the league, Max? Can you tell me that?
No doubt. Yep, the Lakers are top 5 offense and defense.
Okay. I said, who is the #1 defensive team in the league, Max?
All right, go
the
ahead.
Lakers.
And?
Right? Okay. Who is #1 at guarding their opponent 101, Max? LeBron James.
Go ahead.
LeBron James. So I'm going to just leave it at that. I mean, we're not even about to talk about the defensive side of things because Molly didn't ask about the defensive player of the year. I just threw that in there to show you the overall
effect
said the MVP.
That
LeBron James is
we said MVP, but
LeBron James. But I'm telling you that he's giving it to you on both ends of the floor, Max Kellerman. That's what I'm telling you.
So is Embiid. Look, Seth Curry and Tobias Harris. You notice how Tobias Harris looks better on defense this year? Why do you think that is? It's because Big Joel Embiid is right there, holding it down.
Doc Rivers.
Embiid has had a ripple effect on the defense of this team. You want to say Doc Rivers has gotten Embiid to play more consistent defense? Whatever. But he is doing it. I think of every player in the league, the guy who steps on the floor and affects the other team's offense the most is Joel Embiid. I also think he's been the best offensive player in the game so far. His team is also in first place, and he has a recent win against LeBron and the Lakers and against Durant and KD and the Nets. He's the MVP at this moment.
Max, here's the thing that I'm not knocking that Embiid is not in the MVP conversation. But Molly asked me a question, and I answered it, and I told you why. And I'm not going to sit up here and defer because you sitting up here telling me about Embiid and his impact or whatever. I'm telling you why I feel like LeBron James is the best player in the world and is the MVP of the league. And if you watch it with your eye test, it's a different impact. Yes, Embiid is going down there and give you 30-plus points. But when I look at the overall impact, when I watch a guy like Wes Matthews, and I'm not taking anything from Wes Matthews. Watching the game last night, before last night, I believe, hold on, listen, Max. I believe that Wes Matthews had about 4 DMPs before last night. But credit to him for staying ready so he didn't have to get ready. His number was called. And so he had a monster game last night on the defensive end and the offensive end. But guess what? We didn't have to see Wesley Matthews dribbling up the court and making plays. The game came to him so easy because he's on the point. He's on the floor with LeBron James, and LeBron James was hitting him with pinpoint passes where all he had to do was just knock down shots, and he did just that. That's what I'm talking about, the impact.
I'm not arguing against LeBron. I acknowledge the impact, but I'll give you another one for Embiid, okay? In the way the Sixers are constructed, when Embiid's not on the floor, they can't do anything. Not only do I think he's been the most valuable offensive and defensive player this year, not only is his team in first place, and he beat LeBron's team head-to-head and KD's head-to-head recently, but when he's not on the floor, they can't function because Dwight Howard and Ben Simmons both need the paint to score.
All right.
So, in fact, in terms of value to his team, it's even more.
Yeah, last word, Perk.
Molly, real quick, I just witnessed about a week and a half ago the Philadelphia 76ers get a hell of a win on the road against a tough Pacers team without Embiid. I'm going to just leave it at that, okay?
Okay. Fair enough. And I'm going to leave you with this note. At 36, if LeBron wins MVP, he will pass Karl Malone back in '99 as the oldest player ever to win MVP. All I know is Brady, LeBron, all these people doing these things at an advanced age, crushing. It's really giving me life. It's making me feel better about myself, too. So thanks for the inspiration, guys.
Molly, you act like you're not in your prime. Why don't you relax?
What's going on, everybody? Welcome into First Take on this Tuesday morning. Look who is here. Big swagoo. Marcus Spears in the building. Stephen A. is off today.
What up?
Max Kellerman. Morning. Yeah, what's up?
Know what I noticed?
What?
Stephen A. is not here, so swagoo shows up. No coat, no tie. Like I'm a substitute teacher over here. Okay, I got you, Marcus. Like the sub is in.
I woke up early this morning. Thought it was a nice shirt, didn't want to kill it with the jacket, Max. I have the utmost respect for you, Max. I should have put a jacket on. You're right. I apologize.
There you go.
Oh, my goodness.
There you go.
All right, fellas, let's get into it, because obviously we know one thing the Cowboys are good at. You're a former Cowboy, Marcus. You know this. Is marketing. Omission from that hype video? What's the deal? Where was your quarterback? No Dak Prescott sighting. Do you have a problem with that video Dallas just put out?
Absolutely. Molly, read the room. Yeah. Social team for the Dallas Cowboys. Understand what's been transpiring over the past 3 years. I was 34 when we started talking about Dak Prescott needing a new damn contract. Okay? So, no, this is not a situation where you have an oversight or you send out an apology. That's like me putting a promo of First Takeout and putting 3 different people other than you, Stephen A. and Max in there, Molly, and then saying, oh, it was our apologies. We just wanted to put the guests that come on First Take in the promo video. Like, what are we talking about? We are talking about the #1 marketed team in the NFL. We are talking about people, I know people in that building that literally get paid going to send waves after they sent it out. So yeah, it's a mess, man. You're not gonna promo anything without the star of it being in the video. And then they put Troy Aikman in it. What? I ain't tripping. Max, tell me if I'm tripping.
Well, I don't have a problem with it. Let me tell you why. I think pointedly, I see what you're saying. I agree with what you're saying, but here's my conclusion. Remember what Adam Schefter said about the over-under for quarterbacks switching teams this offseason? He said the over-under is 18, and he'll take the over. There's going to be a lot of new faces in a lot of new places. And to me, this hype video tells me Dallas is thinking, this cat may not be our quarterback this upcoming season. Let's be honest about this. Dallas, if you want to pay him in the $20 million range, but they tried to milk that $2 million fourth-round salary as long as they could till the 11th hour before they finally made him an offer commensurate with the market. Now, my feeling is Goff and Wentz got bad contracts. And the contract they offered Dak also might not have been great for the Cowboys. And, in fact, he got hurt that year. So, clearly, it wouldn't have been good for the Cowboys, right? But the point is they waited till the last second to offer it to him. Obviously, the relationship soured somewhat. His agent apparently wanted a shorter contract. He never signed it. Dak is not locked up on the Cowboys. And Marcus, if 18 teams are going to switch, that's the over-under, and Schefter's taking the over, I think Dallas is getting ready for a reality where Dak may not be the quarterback.
Max, absolutely. But we also have to remind ourselves of all of the talk that has led up to the point we're at now. Like, everybody was under this assumption that Dak Prescott would get signed and it's going to work out with the Dallas Cowboys. And to your point, like, that may be an example. That may be a conscious omission made of him not being in the hype video. But isn't that the problem, too? Like, the problem is he's been omitted from getting contracts, and everybody else has. You know what else I saw in that hype video? A lot of dudes that got paid during the time where Dak Prescott should have got paid. Like, this is clear messaging. Now that we having this conversation, and then the bottom line, too, y'all know how I am. It's the quarterback.
It's the quarterback. And you've said that this is your franchise goal that you can look at and say was a conscientious decision made because Dak Prescott not being in a hype video after almost dislocating his ankle off of the bottom of his leg with a team that went through all the things that Dallas went to is a gross mistake by the social team or whoever wanted to make the decision not to have him in the video. Right. And for the ones that's going to say, man, don't be ratting and the Cowboys doing all of this to keep themselves in the media. I don't give a damn what the Cowboys doing to keep the conversation going about them in the media. This conversation is about Dak Prescott, how he's being perceived, and how his closest people are seeing this situation play out. We're talking about something that obviously has been talked about with Dak Prescott and his brother Tad Prescott, noticing things that are coming out with the messaging with the Dallas Cowboys.
But Marcus, if they put him in the hype video and he's not on the team, that's maybe worse. Like, the fact of the matter is, I bring up Wentz and Goff, right?
Max,
I thought those contracts were mistakes.
But you put him in the hype video. You put him in the hype video because what you've told us is you want him. You've told us you want him to be the franchise guy.
But what teams say and what they do are two different things. And by the way, there's a guy who's on the trading block, no matter what the Texans say, named Deshaun Watson. Like, who knows? My point is this. Goff and Wentz got their deal, same quarterback classes, except they were drafted 1 and 2, and Prescott was in the 4th round. The Goff contract turned out so bad, they had to include multiple first-rounders to get rid of the contract and bring in Stafford. The Wentz contract is awful, and he's being shopped right now. So maybe Dallas is looking and saying, hey, we haven't signed Dak to that deal yet. We don't have that problem yet, but he still has trade value. We can get out of this thing without taking the cap hit that the Eagles are about to take. Let's not put him in this hype video right now because he ain't going to be on the team.
That might be their level of thinking, but that ain't what they told us. That's my point. So, look, man, let this saga play out where we find out the Dallas Cowboys didn't make an effort to make sure to keep Dak on this roster, and they've already played. Look, you got to stay ahead of the game. I agree with you. I understand what you're saying. Like, they're in a position because they didn't pay the long-term money, and we see what's happening. We saw what happened in Los Angeles, and we see what's happening with Philly right now. But the bottom line is this, Max. When we talking about this hype video, we talking about 3 years of conversation. This is not just about the hype video. All right, the hype video is the latest
slap in the face
in what we've been reading about all of the situation with Dak Prescott.
Yeah, you're definitely not feeling wanted when you're left off of it.
You know how a team is lying about a player they may want to trade? Their lips are moving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, facts.
Absolutely.
I'll leave you guys with this. Since 2016, when Dak entered the league, there's only 4 quarterbacks that have a better QBR than him. Watson, Breeze, Mahomes, and Jackson. And they're all pretty darn good. Got to show the man some. Who he actually had a better QBR than is this guy, believe it or not. Let's get to the GOAT. And all his 7 rings, considering all the storylines, leaving his coach, Foxborough, etc. Then beats Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes on his way to another championship. Max, do you feel like this was the best playoff run ever by a quarterback when we consider all the circumstances?
It would be if there was no such thing as Eli Manning, but clearly, and both of Eli's runs were better than Brady's this year. Clearly and by far. Let's start with the first one in 07-08, right? That run started on the road. And by the way, Eli, both times, had to go on the road the whole way. Not like Tom Brady, who got to host the Super Bowl. Eli was truly on the road the whole time. Game 1. Look, he didn't get to face a 7-9 team with Heineke as the quarterback, who was okay. He faced a 9-7 team with Jeff Garcia as the quarterback, who was a solid NFL quarterback with a real career as a starter behind him. Like, Eli's first round, 9-7, was tougher than Tom Brady's. Next round, you can look at Drew Brees and go, oh, my God, the name on the resume. But, guys, Drew Brees was no longer the great Drew Brees. Let's be honest. The Tony Romo that Eli had to face and beat at Dallas was a better quarterback that year than Breeze was this year, who was also coming off of shattered ribs, a punctured lung, the whole thing. That's just a fact. Also, his team won 13 games. And then Eli goes up to Lambeau and beats Brett Favre at Lambeau when Brett Favre was still a great player, and then finishes it off. Who's the GOAT? Tom Brady, right? Tom Brady, in his best season, clearly and by far, with Randy Moss on the team. They were undefeated. Had they won that game, they were going to be universally accepted as the greatest team in the history of American team sports. Forget about the 27 Yankees. Forget about the 72-win Chicago Bulls. It was going to be the Patriots, and Eli beat that team. I'm sorry. Not as a 3-point underdog who really should have been favored, not because the line was all banged up, because he came up with clutch play after clutch play. I'll save 2011, which was also better, by the way. Alex Smith in San Francisco for a 13-win team. Aaron Rodgers with a 15-win team at Green Bay, and then Tom Brady again in the Super Bowl. Those are the two greatest postseason runs ever. And then comes Tom Brady this year.
Molly, tell me what you want me to say. Like, what?
I just want you to give me your visceral reaction to what you just heard.
I just
speak your mind. Speak from the heart.
Max, I'm praying that you're not doing this just because I'm on the show.
You better speak from the heart.
I'm praying that this is not just to get me worked up, because I know sometimes you know how to push my buttons, and but I'm gonna fall for it because you are out of your damn mind. You have lost it, Max Kellerman. You have lost your mind on this topic right here. You've lost your mind. And I know Stephen A. gone, but how in the world, bro, can you sit on TV and say what you just said? This man is 43 years old. He's 43 years old. 43. Max. Calm down, Marcus. A 43-year-old quarterback just led a team to a Super Bowl. A 43-year-old quarterback that left a team during a global pandemic with no offseason just led a team to the Super Bowl. A quarterback that you said sucked, that was done, just led a team that hadn't been to the playoffs in 11 years. Not sucked, fell off a cliff. 11 years, no Super Bowl, no playoff, to the Super Bowl, and won, and beat the Kansas City Chiefs. The GOAT, Patrick Mahomes, that you said was the best you had ever seen with your own two eyes. He went to Lambeau, again, no offseason, 43, global pandemic, and beat Aaron Rodgers. Max, you said nobody wants to go to Lambeau, and nobody's going to beat Aaron Rodgers in Lambeau. That is why the Green Bay Packers are going to the Super Bowl. That was Max Kellerman. All right, cool. You say Drew Brees, name on the jersey. Might I add that the New Orleans Saints beat them 38-3 in the meeting they had during the regular season? So obviously, they made strides before the playoffs in order to win the game. Max, this is the most impressive Super Bowl win in the history of the NFL, bro. Some circumstances Tom Brady has no control over, but he played in a time where those circumstances were the problem, all right? So if I told you, if I said, let's forget about names, let's forget about everything you just said. If I said, Max, don't use your whole Columbia, try to switch things around on this situation. This is clear and plain. You know me. I'm a straight to the point, black and white type guy. All right? If I told you a 43-year-old quarterback was going to go to the Super Bowl with a new team that didn't have an offseason, that played a season in a global pandemic, that lost games in November, that everybody counted them out, went on to win the Super Bowl, and they beat the Kansas City Chiefs, who you deemed was about to be a dynasty, And you would tell me that that's not the best Super Bowl run?
No, hold on. There are many things to talk about here. Number one, what we've seen in the pandemic, everyone was playing in a global pandemic. What we saw was experience made a big difference. Like the teams who had been there made a big difference. The Dodgers had a lot of postseason experience. They won the World Series. The obviously LeBron James, a lot of postseason experience, won the championship. Same thing with Brady. Going into the season, many people picked the Bucs to get to the Super Bowl. It's not like no one did that. So the perception was they were a very good team, and Tom Brady was still perceived as an effective quarterback, whether or not elite. What he showed this year, as I had to admit, he was elite by the end of the year, threw 40 touchdowns, not a lot of interceptions. So they go into the playoffs in a global pandemic, that's true, but everyone was in that situation. Everyone was. They beat a 7-9 team on the road, but with a good defense. Okay, that's fine. They beat a Drew Brees team that was clear. Look, they beat them, and that counts. And Brees had a chance to win that game, and he didn't. But Brees is clearly done. That's why we're talking retirement. He was fine. He was an NFL quarterback, but he was no longer the great Drew Brees. Then he goes to Lambeau and beats Rodgers, who won the MVP, who's 37. And then he goes as a slight underdog against a Kansas City Chiefs team without an offensive line. At home, he beats them. Eli, on the other hand, for a 9-7 team that never looked elite that year, as I said, I'm just taking 07, but this applies to 11 too. Beat a better team with a better quarterback and a better record in the first round on the road. Beat a better team with at least a better quarterback with as good a record on the road. Beat Aaron Rodgers when he was in his prime the second time. Brett Favre the first time. Brett Favre won 13 games. Rodgers won 15, both at Lambeau, and then beat Tom Brady both times in the Super Bowl. The first time, Marcus, in 07, that was the greatest team of all time. And the GOAT, Tom Brady, had his greatest season. What?
Wait a second. Molly. I don't have returns, so I can't see you. Molly, let me ask you a question, Molly. Please. Who won NFL MVP this year?
Tom Brady, as I predicted.
Yeah, Rodgers.
And won the Super Bowl, as I predicted.
I'm talking about
31 points,
the season. I'm talking about the season, Molly. Who was the NFL MVP?
Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers.
Who did Tom Brady beat on his way to the Super Bowl?
Aaron Rodgers.
Rodgers was 15-1 when Eli beat him.
And then Patrick Mahomes.
He was 15-1.
He was 13-3 this year. And league MVP.
So you want to call it comparable? So let's match it up. You want to call Rodgers at 15-1, Rodgers at 37 who won the MVP a comparable win? Fine. At Lambeau, fine. That actually is comparable. I give the edge to Eli, who beat a younger version with a better record, but let's call it a wash. Romo at 13 wins back then was a better version and a harder win, I think, than the Saints this year. Obviously, a winning team with a name-brand quarterback, better than a Washington win this year. And then the difference is the Super Bowl. Yes, you beat a Chiefs team with no offensive line, and you were at home. You were the first team to host a home game. Eli went on the road to beat your Tom Brady. Brady's greatest season
who you pick in the
was
Super
that
Bowl?
Year. He had Randy Moss. They were undefeated.
Who you picked to win the Super Bowl?
Touchdowns. That was the greatest offensive of all time.
Who you picked to win the Super Bowl?
And Eli outplayed him and beat him and won Super Bowl MVP.
Who did you pick?
The Chiefs.
Who did you pick to win the Super Bowl? He picked the Chiefs. But now the Chiefs don't have an offensive line.
But I thought they should be underdogs. I thought Mahomes would have to come back, have to come from behind.
Molly, please help Molly.
I can't control who gets hurt on the offensive line heading into the Super Bowl.
Listen, this show is not about my opinion. I will say, full disclosure, I'm a Giants fan, but yeah, I'm not with you here on this one, Max. Strong case, but you can finish this up, Max.
The 85 Bears were the greatest team of all time until that Patriots team came around in 07. Everyone was about to call them not only the greatest team in football history, the greatest team in history, period. Tom Brady, the GOAT, was at his absolute best. He had the best team around him. They were huge favorites, and Eli won MVP by beating him. It's just, they didn't come in all banged up like the Chiefs. They came in crushing everybody.
You done, Marcus? Lost for words? Yeah. Okay.
Molly.
We'll let
Molly.
I'll let you breathe for a
Molly.
little if you need to. We can go to
Molly.
commercial. Tell me what you need right now.
Molly, let me say this real quick.
Yeah.
A quarterback in the NFL just won a Super Bowl at 43 years old.
Yeah.
And we gonna sit on this show
Who someone
and say
thought
that
fell
that's
off a
not the
cliff.
most impressive Super Bowl. Come on, man.
Yeah.
I can't do this
Of
with
all
Max
people I
today.
would
I
have thought,
can't.
Max would have said that.
I don't have it. Don't have it.
I agree. That what you're saying makes
today.
it the third most impressive Super Bowl run ever, behind both by Eli, who beat Tom Brady in his prime.
But you do it.
But I will say this: heading into the
I ain't doing
season, the Bucs were among the favorites because they were loaded everywhere.
I don't give a
And
damn
you all thought
what
Brady
they
was going to
were.
be great.
It don't
Well,
make
unexpected
it.
according
I don't
to you.
care
Let's
what
all
they-
take a moment.
I don't care what we thought.
Let's all take a moment. Let's take a pause. Let's
Please.
marinate on this. Let's do a
Please
little
give us a
commercial
moment.
break. We'll regroup.
I need it.
We'll come back. And Houston, we have a problem. Despite considerable interest in their star quarterback, the Texans are telling teams they will not trade Deshaun Watson, holding on to hope that they can work things out with the man who led the league in passing last season. Max, you're up first here. Tell me this. Do you have a problem with the way the Texans are handling this Deshaun situation?
Nope. As Big L said, what do you say? A bull scare is a strong bluff, right? Like, that's all this is going on, a bull scare. This is it. You know, the Texans have no choice. When they have to front like they're not going to trade him or he decreases in value, I don't even blame them for what they're doing. What the Texans see is, hold on, Matt Stafford is, 2 firsts and a player and something else for Matt Stafford? Wasn't that the deal? They're thinking, okay, Deshaun Watson, the bidding starts at 3 firsts or a Pro Bowl caliber player, 2 firsts and something. But the league may not be coming to the table with that stuff. Look at that. Jared Goff. Now, Jared Goff had a bad contract. It was smaller than Watson's, but he's considered not worthy of it at this point. 2 firsts and a third, guys. To get Matthew Stafford back has a better deal, but still. And Matthew Stafford's a very good quarterback, but he hasn't been a great quarterback. 2 firsts and a third. The Texans are saying, let's start the bidding at 3 firsts. That's not the ceiling. That's the floor. And I'm guessing that they're not getting the kind of offers that they want because the entire league knows this is a distressed asset, like with Harden in Houston, right? They have to act as though they want to keep him. First of all, they really may want to keep him. As poisoned as the well may be, they may be thinking, look, let's see, it's a new regime. Let's see if we can patch things up because he's a great player and that's who you're looking for. But in the event that they really can't, they have to make it seem like they don't want to move him or they will not be getting the best offers for teams. I can't blame them for doing it.
I agree. I understand what you're saying about pushing the value up. The only thing that I don't like, Max, is the newness of this situation and people speaking on that situation with Caserio and obviously the new head coach. And this issue, and I've been screaming at the people that this issue is about Deshaun Watson and Cal McNair and ownership. So as much as the antics are going on with the Houston Texans, whether we want to let Deshaun Watson go or we want to keep him and we know the transgressions and fixing these things, ownership ain't changing, man. And that's the part that I keep trying to scream to everybody. Like, we could talk about all of these little nuanced things. Deshaun Watson has a fundamental problem with the owner of the Houston Texans and how things have transpired. You could have said Bill O'Brien because we saw Bill O'Brien trade away DeAndre Hopkins and we saw them actually play some good football, but also not get over the hump with Bill O'Brien. Could have been angry about that, and we could have deflected to that particular situation. But you removed Bill O'Brien, and you brought in new everything. And now you have these new guys speaking on Deshaun Watson, and we're not interested in trading him and all of that. You're right. They're not interested in trading him. Nobody should be interested in trading a future generational type talent at the quarterback spot. But the fundamental problem is between two structures that are not changing. The ownership of the Houston Texans and Deshaun Watson. So how they're handling it, to me, I have a problem because it's not Cal McNair saying we want to keep Deshaun Watson. It's not Cal McNair out front saying I do not want Deshaun Watson to leave and what we need to do. What do we need to do in order to keep him on this team? Everybody else under him is speaking about this situation. And I get it. Protocols, and they in that position to speak. Max, damn all of that. We all know. You know, I know, Molly knows, everybody knows that where the problem lies. And until that, Cal McNair, the owner of the Houston Texans, comes out and says this publicly, it's irreparable. I think it's irreparable anyway, but all of this talking from people within the Texans organization about what they want to do and don't want to do and the value for Deshaun Watson is moot. It's a moot point because Deshaun Watson's fundamental problem, again, is not with them.
Well, look, I think we could spin it forward and ask this question legitimately. Does it come to an impasse where Deshaun Watson misses a season in the middle of his prime? Because if this is not his prime, good Lord, because he's already, you say a future great quarterback, you're right. He should have a long future if he avoids injury, knock wood. But a present great generational quarterback. Deshaun has elevated his level, I think, to that Mahomes and Rodgers, and you have to include Brady still now, like that elite level this year. We have to ask this question, spinning it forward. The one thing I really haven't gotten into with Deshaun, because he's a quarterback and he has such value, especially with this, what Stafford got, what was in the Goff trade. You think they wouldn't pass that up, a chance to rebuild. You think about Herschel Walker trade, how that built the Cowboys. But the one thing I haven't really gotten into, Le'Veon Bell sat out a whole season. And Pittsburgh could have gotten compensation for him, I think, if they wanted to, if they would have moved him. But it seemed to me more important to the team and the league that they send players a message. You're not in control. Yep. We are. And I wonder if it comes to that, particularly given the kind of flashpoint of this fractured relationship in terms of Deshaun and, let's say, Cal McNair, where considering the kind of social political divide here, that management, that ownership wants to send a message to labor. And by the way, it is white ownership and black labor. There's no way of getting around that. You are not in charge. Stay in your lane. We will cut off our nose to spite our face in this case because it has long-term benefits to the power structure, keeping everybody in check in their place. And if it gets to that point, is Deshaun willing to sit out a season? That's going to be very interesting to see, and hopefully it doesn't come to that.
Max, I think bro, genius. All right, that is where we are. We are at the precipice of player empowerment, and that is what that is what ownership is going to fight against. Right? Even beyond that, like Carson Wentz requesting a trade in Philly and looking like that's going to transpire. They're starting to see this NBA type mentality creep in, but players are also starting to see, where is this organization going? Do they have me in a good situation to play? And look, we're talking about this because we're talking about Deshaun Watson, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. So I think Deshaun Watson can become a face for what this is when this happens, because it's irreparable. I'm telling you, he is not going to be a Houston Texan. He would sit out in order not to play for them, I believe.
Yeah, I know there's many layers to this, guys, and it's probably deeper than this, but one other element that can't help is he didn't have any protection. He's one of 3 quarterbacks that was hit 500 times, and we talked about that. I know it got a little bit better the last couple of years, but he was just getting dogged out there. And you talk about his longevity and his career, so you can't be excited about that either with the Houston Texans organization. We'll leave it there.
It'll definitely motivate you. I mean, when you're a competitor and you get so close to your ultimate goal, and then you fall short, I mean, it's something that will motivate you for the rest of your career. I mean, it was a bad feeling in that locker room after the game. I mean, you don't want to have that feeling again.
All right. Patrick Mahomes has handled defeat with grace. No surprise there. But, Max, at the end of the day, Tom Brady, 10 Super Bowl trips. He's won 7 rings. And obviously beating Mahomes in convincing fashion when Brady's 43 and no longer in his prime. So is there any way Mahomes can get back into that GOAT conversation?
The odds are long, but it is possible. They're long, but it's possible because this is how hard it is. When LeBron choked in that first shot in Miami against Dallas, it looked like the Jordan ship had sailed. But he, clawed and scratched his way back into it, climbed up, and he's back in the debate. Even if I think he doesn't win it, he's back in it. A generation of basketball fans who swear it's him. But with Mahomes, it's as though LeBron lost to Dallas and Jordan, as an old man, was playing on Dallas. It's really, really hard to do because you lost head-to-head. But I'll say this much. I thought Mahomes was spectacular. In fact, honestly, I thought he was the best quarterback on the field in spite of the numbers. He did miraculous things. Tom Brady was pressured less than any time in his Super Bowl career. 4 times on dropbacks, on 30 dropbacks. 4 pressures. Mahomes was pressured on 29 of 56, more than 50%. But what gets worse is they blitzed under 10% of the time, which may be also a record for the Super Bowl. So what that means is you're always running for your life, and because they never have to send an extra guy, no one's ever open. And yet Mahomes, think about this for a second, hit 2 receivers in the face in the end zone, in the face, and he did it on the run the second time. One of the most spectacular plays I've ever seen. He was parallel with the ground. How did he get away from Shaq Barrett, let alone get that pass off? And he also hit another receiver in the hands in the end zone. Forget about the Travis Kelce 3rd down for 16 yards and a first down, right? Never mind that. There are 3 touchdown passes that he threw under. Like, how many quarterbacks in the history of football could even get those passes off, let alone put them where he put them? So I think as time goes on, people will review the spectacular nature of the way Mahomes played in this game. But beyond that, Marcus, this is how he could do it. He can win a handful of Super Bowls. He's probably not going to get to 7 or 8. Who knows if Brady's done, right? He can win a handful of Super Bowls. He can shatter records, like maybe throw 60 touchdowns in a season. That's not out of the possibility for Patrick Mahomes. And he could beat Brady in a rematch, which is also not out of the realm of possibility. It's a lot of ifs that have to add up. I think it's unlikely, but it's possible because his peak is the highest I've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, look, we disagree, but we don't have to get into a spat about it. It's simple for me. Like, it really boils down to the example you made in basketball. If LeBron and Jordan met in the finals and Jordan beat LeBron as an older player, LeBron wouldn't be in the GOAT conversation. Now, we would talk about him being the most talented and one of the best to ever do it. But when we got this matchup head-to-head, I firmly believe that Patrick Mahomes needed to win this game in order to be in the GOAT conversation legitimately. When we start talking about the longevity of a career, there's a lot of things Patrick Mahomes is still going to do. He's going to win some more Super Bowls, but we're all going to remember that Tom Brady was 43 when they met in the Super Bowl and he beat him. We also going to remember in 2018 when Tom Brady beat him in the AFC Championship. So Patrick Mahomes needed this game in order for this conversation to go further. Patrick Mahomes may break every Tom Brady record when it comes to passing yards and all of those things, which probably will happen with how the league is now and what they do offensively in Kansas City. But when we start talking about the GOAT, we don't need to have a conversation about Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady. Tom Brady is in a league of his own when it comes to GOAT. And for me, quite frankly, in professional team sports, this has become way bigger than Patrick Mahomes. That's why I go back to the first argument we had about Tom Brady being the most impressive Super Bowl run. We don't do these things at 43 years old. This doesn't happen. If I told you years ago a 43-year-old quarterback that changed teams in the middle of a global pandemic was going to go on and win a Super Bowl against teams and quarterbacks that have been together, that know who they are identity-wise and have a plan, then you would have told me I was crazy and I shouldn't be on television, period. So look, the GOAT conversation is over. For everybody that wants to talk about this in the NFL and compare things, look, we know Aaron Rodgers is more talented than Tom Brady and has done better things from an optic standpoint playing the position than Tom Brady. Patrick Mahomes has taken that to another level. The bottom line is when we start talking about GOAT, also, LeBron does some things athletically that Jordan couldn't do. But the reason why people talk about Jordan being the GOAT is because of the insurmountable accomplishments, period. Like that I do, Max. I do. You know how I feel about LeBron. But
Jordan
let's not
had a
go
48-inch.
Let's not go there. Hold on, Max.
Yeah.
This ain't about. Yeah, LeBron 6'8", all of that God-given stuff. Anyway, Tom Brady beating Patrick Mahomes head-to-head, I believe, knocked Patrick Mahomes out of the GOAT conversation. If we didn't have this matchup
reasonable
and we had to speculate, then we could both. All right.
That's a totally reasonable position to have, and it's probably right. What I'm saying is the door isn't closed, and the reason I'm saying this is, look, that game was so clearly a line of scrimmage game. One guy was running for his life. The other guy had all the time in the world.
Max, we're not going to talk about history like that. We're not going to talk about that, though. We're not going to talk. History will not talk about that, Max. Max, don't do it, bro.
It depends.
Don't do
hold
it.
on, Marcus.
We know history won't bring that up.
Going forward. It depends what happens
Max.
going forward. If, for example, they link up again next season, and this time, no one has a decimated offensive line and Mahomes wins, what that will demonstrate to a lot of people is, well, yeah, because on a level playing field, Mahomes' team won. It depends on what happens going forward. If Mahomes never wins another Super Bowl or wins one more, he ain't going to be in the conversation if that happens. But if he gets him in a rematch and Mahomes winds up with 5 championships, by the way, the odds are against Mahomes winning 5 championships. It's hard to win even 1. That's why Brady's the GOAT, right? But if Mahomes is able to do that and shatters every record, he'll be back in the conversation.
We disagree, bro. When you get a chance, when you get a chance to be the future GOAT, when you get a chance to be the future GOAT, and that's the conversation we have.
No chance.
But you actually play the GOAT and you lose, you are removed from that conversation.
But there was no chance, Marcus. Marcus, looking back real quick, just be honest. Was there a chance that any quarterback could lead that that Chiefs team over that Bucs team on Sunday?
Max,
ever? Was there really a chance?
After we watched the game, no. But that you thought it was a chance before the game. We can sit here and talk hindsight all day long.
I thought they should have been underdogs.
The bottom line is this. When we talk about history, when history comes, we will not say Patrick Mahomes' offensive line was bad. We will say Tom Brady beat Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl when he was 43. That's what we will say.
Brady's had bad offensive line before too.
LeBron James took the Cavs to the finals with no one on them. LeBron James missed Kyrie and Kevin Love against the Warriors the first time and lost. And in fact, I point to that all the time. Like, of course he would have beaten them if he had his crew.
I'll leave you with this. Here's one feather in Patrick Mahomes' cap right now that he has. He's the youngest quarterback ever to start in multiple Super Bowls. So that's one thing Brady can't take away from him. Marcus, very fun having you on. As always, I will miss you the rest of the show.
Swagoo.
You have fun on NFL Live later. Kendrick Perkins is... So, after a rocky season with the team, sources say the Philadelphia Eagles are expected to trade Carson Wentz in the coming days. A $10 million roster bonus is due to Wentz on March 19th. On that note, we bring in our guy, Super Bowl champion Jeff Saturday. Good morning, good afternoon, all those good things to you, Jeff. I will get to you in just a second, but first I'm going to start with your boy Max here. Max, which team will give Carson Wentz, I know how fondly you are and speak of Carson Wentz, the best chance to rebound here?
Ready for this? I actually think it would be the Patriots. And I know they lack offensive weapons, and I don't think they're going to trade for them. But I think what Carson Wentz needs is an attitude realignment first. As much as he's professed, and all the reporting coming out of Philadelphia is the same about this, as much as he's professed that to want to get better and to want to be a better leader, and he's said to have a high football IQ and all those things. Like, everyone says that about him. He's super tough. I mean, you can see how tough a guy he is. He's tried to play through injuries where he shouldn't have even been on the field. All those things are true, and yet he has, at times, I believe the real issue is failed to look in the mirror and really be accountable. And I think he's gotten so much praise from the media and has felt so protected in his situation that they'd win, he'd play poorly. He was, oh my God, what a heroic performance. And so maybe he wasn't really taking accountability in the way he should have. I think he needs to go to a place where there's such gravitas on the coaching staff, right? Where the reputation of the place is enough for him to humble himself in that way. Because Carson Wentz, not all that long ago, a couple of years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, was an excellent quarterback. But as you know, I don't think he's been an excellent quarterback for quite some time. And I don't think that his benching this year came out of the blue. It's not like suddenly he was so great last year, and then what happened this year? I was saying all through the second half of last year, he's in fact not playing well. He's in fact costing his team. And so I think if he were to go to Belichick, he would at least be part of an organization where if the coaching staff needed him to do something, he would go out there and do it. And I think that's the most important thing for Wentz right now. In spite of the lack of offensive weapons, I think it would be the Patriots, actually.
Yeah, listen, when you think about Carson Wentz, I would say this about the disagreement we start right here is, so Carson Wentz has had a difficult last probably couple years. But at the end of last year, you really saw him help lead his team into the playoffs, right? Like when everybody was injured, he kind of stepped up, and people talked about him carrying the team on his back and getting them into the playoffs and finding a way, Max, what you kind of call in heroics. But when you talk about a team that would be the best fit, the Patriots and the Patriot way and what they have that's not going to benefit him. He needs a team like the Indianapolis Colts. And I'll tell you why. The nucleus of the team is built inside out, which Chris Ballard has done a fantastic job. He has good, but not great, outside help and young players who could potentially help him. The most important part is he has a fantastic offensive line that's young, minus Costanza, who just retired, so they'll have to replace the left tackle. But we know Ballard's not afraid to put money or resources in the offensive line. And he has a young running back in Taylor who is ascending and really showed what he can be now with guys who, Mac being injured, coming back. Potentially you have a few different options that will help you and help your game. I think he's athletic, which lends itself to moving the pocket, which we know Frank Reich is not afraid to do. Move the pocket, trap pass, 2 tight end sets, 3 tight end sets, right? Cram things in. If you need to spread it out, he can do all the. So the plethora of options are there. I think the seamless transition becomes because when he is protected, he is a different quarterback. And I would liken this, and obviously people are going to hear this, and you look at what happened to Patrick Mahomes when he was pressured the way he was pressured in the Super Bowl. I played with a Hall of Fame quarterback in Peyton Manning. I played with Aaron Rodgers. I've watched Tom Brady his entire career. When players are pressured and quarterbacks are on the run for their life, they are not the same guy. So unless you can tell me that New England's offensive line is going to improve and just pure pass blocking ability, I would tell him, if I'm his agent, go find that group of guys who are going to afford you the most protection, give you a good, if not great, run game, and then just be part of an offense. Don't go somewhere where you got to be the dude. Like, we don't want that, because we really don't know if you have
I hear that. But Jeff,
let's make sure you can build in there.
Jeff, I appreciate the point about the Colts, because the Colts got the best guard, and they spent a very high draft pick on him, the best interior lineman, I think, in the game, and a guy who's just a difference maker, no question. They built that team right, and now they need to find their quarterback. I'm saying I don't think Carson Wentz is ready to be that quarterback. You bring up Mahomes and how he was pressured. Yeah, Mahomes, I thought, was spectacular. I thought he was spectacular in the Super Bowl. He was on the run for his life, pressured more than anyone ever, but with a lower blitz rate than anyone ever, right, on dropbacks. So he's always running for his life. No one's ever open. He threw 3 touchdown passes in the end zone. Hit 2 guys in the face and 1 in the hands. Like, he was unbelievable. That's not what Carson Wentz did a couple of years ago. What Carson Wentz did even last year, Jeff, at the end of that season when everyone was lauding him for bringing his team to victory. In fact, he got healthy against an extremely weak NFC East. And even then, he was turning the ball over on 3rd down in the 4th quarter. They were lucky to recover. He was beating these backup quarterbacks in the NFC East. But, Jeff, everyone in the NFC East was beating those same quarterbacks right around that time, worse than Wentz was beating them. I really did not think he played well. I was sounding the alarm on first take all the second half of last year. I see this as a continuation. Jeff, the reason I bring all that up is because what I'm saying about Carson Wentz is, of course you're right, if he's protected. He's better throwing on the run, although he doesn't move the way he used to, but maybe he could. But my point about Wentz is more than anything, it's upstairs. It's a humility issue. It's an adjustment issue. It's an issue of really taking accountability for his play and for leadership, not just in word, but in deed. And so when I look for the right fit, to me, it's not about the X's and O's and about the pieces on the field. It's about the coaching staff and a place where Wentz could really get that part fixed or that part worked on. That's why I said the Patriots. Any other team that you would bring up, I'd want to know about the coaching staff and Wentz's attitude toward that.
Yeah, listen, I agree with you on the coaching staff portion, but I think it's the opposite. I don't think you need a leader at quarterback if you go to the Patriots, right? McDaniels has a very strong personality. So does Bill. You know, both those guys, they have a certain way they want to go do it. They'll allow you to be you to a certain degree, but ultimately they're going to be the guys who carry the water in that locker room. And so from Wentz's perspective, there's not going to be any leadership required. So from just the actual learning the leadership part, from the X's and O's, I think Frank Reich is probably the one, if he's not the best, he's one of the top 3 play callers, and they have the ability to complete it. Like, why did Tom want to leave New England? Partly because of what was on the outside. Like, you're asking him to go back in, and it's not just going to be the mental part. I understand what you're saying about the mental part, but there also have to be guys around that can make you better than you are. And that's every position in the league, Max. Like, the guys you play with matter. So you're going to go to a group where now you have to be that guy no matter who's on the outside. I think that's a tall order to get. And it's not like the Patriots have produced tons of receivers over the past 20 years. Tom Brady has created those guys, but man, now you're asking him to create those receivers. I think that's a tall order to ask right there.
All right, we'll leave it there. In the last 2 seasons, Carson Wentz ranks 33rd in off-target percentage. Let's go to Tom Brady, fellas. Yeah, it's that bad, Jeff. Threw 10 touchdown passes and won a Super Bowl in one postseason in Tampa during a pandemic, mind you. And oh, by the way, beat Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, and Patrick Mahomes along the way. Max, was this the best playoff run by a quarterback ever?
No. Up there.
Wow.
There were 2 runs better than this one, clearly. And both times, the guy beat Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. And that's from Eli Manning. Guys like Jeff Saturday looked at this Bucs team and said, that team's going to go to the Super Bowl. I love this team. Both sides of the ball before the season started. No one was saying that about those Giants teams, right? Then Tom Brady has every weapon you want, and he's playing in the Super Bowl ultimately against a line that's been decimated by injury. I never thought the Chiefs should have been favored. I liked them to win because I thought Mahomes would work miracles in a comeback again. But you know, not because of the shape that the Chiefs were in. Think about Eli Manning's runs, Jeff. The first time, he faces a 9-7 Bucs team with Jeff Garcia, a real NFL quarterback, on a 9-7 team, beats him on the road. Goes to Dallas, beats Tony Romo in his prime on a 13-3 team on the road. This isn't Heineke and a 7-9 team. This isn't the end of Drew Brees. This is Romo in his prime on a 13-win team. He then goes to Lambeau and beats Brett Favre on the road. And then Tom Brady in his greatest season with Randy Moss, 50 touchdowns, with Randy Moss, undefeated, about to be crowned the greatest team in sports history, better than any Yankees team, better than the Jordan Bulls. And Eli beats that team and wins MVP. And then, Jeff, he did it again in 2011. The same thing. He beat Alex Smith on a 49ers team that was a devastating defensive team, 13-win team. He beat Aaron Rodgers at Lambeau, 15-1 that year, and then beat Brady again in the Super Bowl. Both runs by Eli were more on an inferior team compared to this Bucs team. Didn't get to host the Super Bowl. Beat Brady twice, who's the GOAT, right, in his prime. Those are the 2 best Super Bowl runs ever. Then this run by Brady.
I like how you tried to sugar me in with this, Max. You tried to bring a Manning in, not my Manning, but you brought a Manning in, which I appreciate. You know what I mean? I give you some points. I like the style. You know what I mean? But I can't. I'm gonna stick with Brady right here now, and which is hard for me to do. You know this is difficult for me to do, but I will say, and the reason I said this is because the way that historians, guys like yourself, will frame this is he went on the road. He beat, to your point, he beat a poor quarterback, but a very good front seven in Washington in the playoffs. Then he goes and beats Breeze, the team that had beat them twice during the season, beats them at home against another exceptionally good defense and the New Orleans Saints. Then he goes to the MVP's house and beats Aaron Rodgers and Green Bay in Green Bay, and then caps it off with the baby goat. That's your name, not mine. You know I don't do the baby goat nonsense. But the guys that everybody's already crowning to be the next GOAT, and that's what you call them, and he beats them, I mean, handily. And so when we start passing out these things, it seems like they always frame it in quarterback language. So I'm giving it to you in your language. How I look at the games is completely different. I think Todd Bowles, MVP, held Mahomes to 9 points. That's pretty spectacular. Every one of Brady's championships has been a top 10 defensive football team. This is no different. But I don't look at it any different. I think Eli had some really good teams. They got hot. It looked good. We give all the credit to quarterbacks. So when you go on the road and beat Breeze, you beat Brady, you beat Mahomes and Rodgers, all
let's look
two
at
NFL MVPs, and that run, that's pretty spectacular.
But let's look at it. Let's look at it. First of all, the Bucs were firing on all cylinders. They had an elite offensive line this year, top 5 in the league. They had an elite defense, and they were facing a line with 3 starters missing, including both tackles. Okay, so Todd Bowles is a genius. He didn't bring the pressure. They blitzed under 10% of the time. They got pressure on dropbacks over 50% of the time. Why would he send anyone? What that means is you're always on the run for your life, and also no one's ever open, right? That's what. But Tom Brady through this plus extraordinary. You're right. But let's really match it up. You know, Eli beat a 10-win Matt Ryan team on one of the runs, followed by a 13-win defensive juggernaut in San Francisco with Alex Smith as the quarterback, followed by Aaron Rodgers, who was 15-1, not 13-3 this year.
Max, that
15-1, followed by Tom Brady himself. Guys, that was that was the second run.
You put
both times.
You put Romo, Alex Smith. You put all these guys in the same category. You just said, let's say the names.
Okay,
Matt.
let's do it. Hold on.
Breeze, Rodgers.
Let's do 07.
Okay,
let's
Breeze,
do 07.
No.
But,
just say the names.
No,
just wait.
Jeff.
Just humor me
Jeff
here.
Go.
No. But this is Jeff.
Breeze,
This is
Rodgers, Mahomes. I mean, like Romo.
Okay,
Alex
this is
Smith,
where
I don't care what the team is. I don't care what let's just lay it
that's
out.
2 different years.
We can't put those guys in the same
Don't get
category.
it twisted. This is 2 different years we're talking about because Eli did it twice better than Brady just did it. One at a time. Jeff Garcia over Heineke. We both agree. If you're looking, in the boxing world, Jeff, I know all about this. People try to get you shiny names on your resume. You got to know when they fought. So the bottom line is Romo for the 13-3 Cowboys was a better quarterback that year than Breeze for this Saints team. I think everyone would agree. That Romo was better than this Breeze. And then that Favre at Lambeau was a stud on an excellent team. And then what caps it all off, Jeff, what really outweighs it, Mahomes is great. His line wasn't there. Like he had no offensive line. Brady was on the greatest team of all time. It was in his prime, having his greatest season that Eli beat. But that's just one of the runs. The other run is with Alex Smith on that Niners team. That was an excellent team. Matt Ryan on a 10-win Falcons team. Aaron Rodgers on a better team than he was on this year, 15 wins, and then Brady again. Who's the GOAT, right? Isn't Brady the GOAT? Not the baby GOAT, but the GOAT. And he was in his prime back then, Jeff.
Well, I mean, it all depends on how you're framing it. But I like. But I'm just telling you the way that when you talk about the 3 that he goes on the road to beat and the way that he beat them, You can say whatever you want about Breeze. People were expecting them to win that game, right? I'm not sure Tampa was favored in any of those games. I'm not sure. I know they weren't favored against Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. I wouldn't think they would have been favored against the Saints after losing twice. But for them to come back and show what they did and play the way they played,
Jeff,
you got to give them a ton of credit. And listen, part of the game comes into, can you elevate the guys around you? When they took it to Kansas City, I mean, you've heard guys say, he looked at Fournette and said, listen, this team doesn't want to tackle. Go run nasty, go play physical, and watch us win this game. It's those type of things to get his team on the run. He took a 7-9 team and made him a Super Bowl champion. I agree. I did say they were going to do that, and I picked him.
7-9
but man, he
team.
beat some really good QBs.
Eli's team only had 9 wins. Hold on a second. Two things. One, you want to check the odds for the Patriots-Giants Super Bowl when Brady was undefeated with 50 touchdowns that year? Because that's who Eli beat. One of the most famous plays in football history was the pass to Tyree. But the pass to Manningham, the second time he beat Brady, was even a better play. And let me just say this. You said he went on the road to beat those 3 teams. Heineke and the 7-9 Washington team, give me a break. I mean, they had a good defense, but they're in the playoffs. Give me a break. He was not at home on the road at the Super Bowl. Brady had a home game in the Super Bowl. He had a home game against the Chiefs team that should have been underdogs given the condition of their offensive line. They should have been, Jeff.
Max, you're a beautiful mind.
Look, they didn't have either tackle.
Listen, I said it. It was all you guys who said that Mahomes is going to be a hero and can overcome all odds and drop back 15 yards and do all these things. I clearly told you the game is won in the trenches every time. I don't care what it looks like. All the shiny guys on the outside, it takes those front 5, the big uglies matter. That's what wins games. It's you guys who keep trying to tell me and persuade me about quarterbacks. I'm just helping you out, Max.
Once upon a time, there was a goat, a baby goat, a honey badger, and a delusional television host with the initials MK. Bye, everyone.